As stated, my name is Davis Haley. And my project is the growth of esports in America. Really quickly, before I really get started, I want to thank my sponsor, Gina Lopez, as well as my counselors, both Professor K. Sanders as well as Smirnov, for helping me get through a very difficult time to do a project like this. So hopping right in. My project is a literary review that deals with the comparison of esports versus traditional sports. The two sports I chose were League of Legends by Riot Games and the NBA, as Riot is the biggest esport producer in the United States as well as globally, and the NBA is more of a newer rising sport in terms of popularity. My research combined reading scholarly articles, data analysis, as well as 3 interviews with members of the Riot family who were able to give me a greater insight to how they operate, as well as the future of esports in general and Riot's involvement with that. A huge part of this project was to expand the understanding of esports, especially amongst the sport management community, as it is a relatively new phenomenon. And with that said, I want to give a quick little insight into what esports is, as well as Riot Games. In simplest terms, esports is competitive video games that range from the recreational local level up to the international professional level. There's a wide variety of genres within esports, but the top 3 are fighting games such as the Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat series, first-person shooters, which is the most prominent in the US market, such as the Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex Legends, etc. And then MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena, which is what League of Legends is, the focus of for this particular project. League of Legends has 2 teams of 5 go head-to-head alongside NPC or non-playable characters to basically overtake the enemy's base. It's a super simple premise, and there's a ton of other details that go into it, but for the sake of time and everyone's sanity, I will leave it at that. League of Legends itself was founded in 2009 by Riot Games in Santa Monica and has grown to be the world's largest esport. Again, the reason why I chose it for this particular project, along with personal connections to the actual company itself. It's experienced continuous growth since its release, and it is only now starting to plateau, but primarily only in the American market, although there are a few plans to help increase that growth even more. It relies heavily on advanced technology to stay connected with its community, both players and viewers, and I'll get into that a little bit more down the road. The only real negative insight within esports right now and Riot Games is diversity. There is a heavy prominent amount of white and Asian players right now within esports, and a lack of females as well, which there have been several chances to try and increase that diversity going forward. So in order to compare these 2 prominent sport figures, I took it upon myself to do these 4 basic core components: viewership, player base, the brand strength and marketability, and adaptability. As far as viewership goes, is the who is watching, who is enjoying this form of entertainment, which is extremely important, especially in a marketing aspect for who cares about this sport and who's going to constantly bring in views that helps with certain TV and streaming deals. As far as the player base goes, who's actively participating and playing within the sport or game itself, from both professional and a more recreational level, as these people are more inclined to be active within events and different marketable opportunities within the company itself. Brand strength and marketability combines really all the different aspects, but also looks into what is the message that that brand tries to portray, what is their strongest message, how are they able to market themselves with their assets they acquire. And then lastly, adaptability, which in this sense deals with the social and political obstacles that occur in the world that these companies have to overcome in order to make sure that their message stays clear, and that they are well respected amongst the community and professional levels. So a few of the key takeaways about this was that right now the NBA viewership, and I calculate this based off of finals because that is the pinnacle of all competition for basically every sport. Peaked in the 2016-2017 finals, in which the Warriors faced the Cavs. It was in a very tense series with 20.4 million people watching. Although since then it has declined, with 2020 being one of the lowest watched finals, with only about 7 million people watching. And I'll get a little more to that in a bit. The LCS World Championship, which is the equivalent in the sense for League of Legends and Riot Games, had a 45.9 million concurrent viewers for this event, although this is not the main measurement that esports and Riot Games specifically uses. They actually use something called AMA, or average minute audience, which calculates how many people are watching at any minute during out the entire stream or event, of which they still held a record of 23.04 million viewers, which is incredible when thinking about this esport being so much of a niche target right now. In regards to player base, the NBA has a larger overall, or excuse me, basketball has an overall larger player base with about 26 million from both the professional down to the recreational level, while League of Legends has a 16 to 17 million domestically, which is less than the NBA, but their global market or their global player base equals around 115 million, as it has a really huge impact in Asian countries like China and Korea. Both actually have a professional and collegiate level now, as collegiate esports is starting to take off more and more, even with scholarships being offered to certain players. And one of the biggest reasons why League of Legends itself is not as big in the United States as far as player base is due to the genre that it is. First-person shooters is the top genre within the United States of America, but there have been efforts to try and reverse that kind of ideal for more MOBAs. Excuse me. Both games are extremely accessible, especially with League now going on to mobile and soon into console stores, which is the more popular choice of gaming within the United States of America. And basketball is as simple as needing only a ball and a hoop, whether that's in your imagination or physically, in order to really enjoy and play the sport itself. And just keep in mind, both sports require a ton of dedication and practice to make it to professional level, with less than 1% making it to the professional level in either sport. Now, as far as their marketability and their brand strength, both sports try to capture the same target audience of around the 18 to 30 range. So typically a younger audience than that of other traditional sports. The NBA itself likes to champion its players as individuals, such as LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Stephen Curry, as far as their marketing capabilities. But athletes also have an opportunity to market outside of the specific league while still representing them, such as with Damian Lillard, Joel Embiid, and famously Chris Paul with State Farm. In esports, this is a little bit differently. They tend to do more team-based, as esport teams work differently than traditional sports teams. So to be clear, example, Cloud9, they have a team that is for League of Legends, CSGO, and other esports, all underneath the one title, while in traditional sports, it is a separate team entity for every sport, every city, etc. Which is another huge factor, is that esports is not as geographical as traditional sports tend to be. With this said, they both host their own great deals within endorsement and sponsors, which helps drive revenue up for both sports. There's also a greater deal of community that's offered within esports, and especially Riot Games, and that's what's helped them maintain in the top spot within esports, with weekly to monthly kind of engagement with their viewers as well as players. And lastly, dealing with the adaptability, COVID-19 was a huge impact on the sports industry, as many seasons were cut short, viewership dropped drastically, in-crowd attendance wasn't available, which was a huge essence in the sport experience. However, in esports, due to the way that it is operated and played, streams and games were able to still continue as normal, and viewership actually skyrocketed on sites such as Twitch due to the fact that there was no real interruption within their play style. Excuse me. Beyond play style, however, there was an impact, as several deals and endorsements did fall through for Riot Games, just due to uncertainty with certain companies. although it has not deterred them fully. Another major impact that was the Black Lives Matter movement. The NBA is probably one of the loudest sports on the matter, as it is a predominantly African-American Black sport in America, with jerseys that have messages of empowerment and justice written on the back. Several players, coaches, and team organizations all speaking out on the matter, making their voices heard and really adding to the movement as it is. Riot Games actually, however, donated about $100 million worth to something called their Social Impact Fund, which donates money to these various activism and social needs. And Black Lives Matter was one of the ones they donated to most recently. And lastly, the last major social political impact was the Hong Kong riots or Hong Kong protest movement, of which hit sports, specifically basketball and esports, really hard due to the fact that both have a major desire to expand even more in China. The NBA struggled with keeping a neutral stance as players and coaches were fighting on the side for justice and freedom, seen similar with the Black Lives Matter movement. However, Riot Games is able to keep more of a neutral stance, allowing both players and managers and people associated with Riot to speak out, just not under the Riot name, as they don't want to divide their own viewers and players. Why it matters. Esports is definitely a new phenomenon, and it's part of my future career path that I want to go across within sports media marketing. And the overall growth of esports has been fascinating since I first got to college, and I've watched it grow more and more and can see the future with it. And it's even being noticed by traditional sports as a good investment opportunity that's continually growing more and more. It's a true passion of mine, and with the advancement of society and technology, I don't see any stopping for it anytime soon. Thank you.